Howdy. My name is Nonat, and welcome to my deep dive into the Leshy Ancestry for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. What the heck is a Leshy? Well, this is a Leshy. They're plant people. They're cool, they're kinda cute, they're kinda creepy, and I really like them. Do I like them as much as some people? Definitely not. There are people who live and die by the Leshy, and I respect you, you know? Living for plant people is something. But they're an interesting ancestry introduced in the Lost Omens character guide, and like the Hobgoblin from last week, we only have one book of feats to cover here, so this video will probably only be about 15 minutes. But before we jump into today's video, I just want to thank the sponsor of the channel, this flower. Like and subscribe. Guys, they're plant people. What do you want me to do? I can't think of any puns or jokes about plant people. I had a rose sitting on my counter. That's all I've got. I don't have any budding jokes here. I've been trying to put the pedal to the metal. None of my ideas are taking root. I guess I've just been barking up the wrong tree. I should really just leave it to the professionals. I wonder where all these problems stem from. God, and now I've just gone and soiled the whole video. If you laughed even once, you are legally obligated to subscribe and leaving a comment saying, I laughed at the bad flower puns. But seriously though, Leshies have some weird statistics, honestly. They start with 8 hit points per level, which, for flower people, some of them are mushroom people, but overall, they're made of foliage. They're surprisingly dense, just like gnomes. They get ability boosts to Constitution, and I assumed they would have 6 starting hit points with a weakness to Constitution, but no. They are small creatures with a 25-foot movement speed, and their other ability boost is to Wisdom, and their ability flaw is to Intelligence. I'm not quite sure why. There might be something in their lore. I'm not quite as familiar with the Pathfinder lore as I've been open about before. It might be because they are created creatures, and they're plants that were given form and sentience from druids, so maybe their intelligence just isn't on par with naturally born creatures like the rest of the core rulebook ancestries. They begin speaking Common, Sylvan, as well as any additional languages equal to their intelligence modifier. They have the small, leshy, and plant traits, making them one of the only playable races that does not have the humanoid trait. They have low light vision, and leshies do not eat. Instead, they gather nutrients through their roots or through the sun, depending on, your Leshy and your choice for roleplay. If there is soft dirt, you can, during a rest, just nail your roots in the ground, sit there and soak up some nutrients, and that's basically a meal. You can also just stay out in the open and let the sun feed you. But should you go a full week without sunlight or the ability to draw nutrition in any way, you do begin to starve. But they have thought of that. If you're gonna have one of those multi-week-long dungeon crawls, you can buy specially formulated, I'm not making this up, special formulated bottles of sunlight. They cost 40 silver pieces and only last as long as a ration. They are exactly 10 times more expensive than a normal ration and last just as long. But you can take this bottled sunlight down with you and just stick your roots in it or pour it on your face or however it works. It's amazing. Jumping into Leshy heritages, the first one is the Fungus Leshy, which makes you a mushroom man. And you have dark vision. That's it. I kind of wish the Fungus one also got, maybe a circumstance bonus to a poison saving throws or even fortitude save. Well, fortitude saves would be too strong. I think a circumstance bonus to saving throws against poisons would have been fine with the dark vision on the Fungus Leshy. Come on, mushrooms are poisonous. The gourd Leshy is so weird. You have a giant hollow gourd for a head, like a pumpkin or a squash. And there's nothing in there. You don't have a brain. You have a spirit, but you don't have a brain in your head. What this means is you can open your head and store up to 1 bulk worth of objects. You could store 10 healing potions in your head. Additionally, items that are in your head are harder to steal, and you don't need to spend an action to draw them. For one action, you can both draw and use something from inside your head. This is so weird, and I love it. The leaf Leshy is kind of boring, but also really powerful. You don't take fall damage. Because of the orientation and makeup of your form, you fall gracefully and not slowly, but slow enough that it doesn't hurt to land. You just float down and land with no fall damage. Vine Leshies are really cool. You don't need a free hand to climb. Because your body is made of interwoven vines you can control, vines just stick out of your chest and wrap and pull you up a wall while you have swords in both hands. This is so weird. Additionally, should you succeed at an athletics check to climb, you critically succeed instead. These heritages are so freaking cool, dude. And that's it. Those are the 4 heritages. Really unique aside from the Dark Vision one, but simple. Leshies have really easy to understand heritages, so let's go ahead and move on to the level 1 ancestry feats, starting with Grasping Reach. This is actually a super interesting ancestry feat in that if you are wielding a 2-handed weapon that deals at least 1d6 and does not have the Reach trait, you can give it the Reach trait and reduce its damage die by 1 step due to the length of your vines making it weaker. Weirdly, the Vine Leshy is not a prerequisite for this feat. Even a Gourd Leshy or a Fungus Leshy could take Grasping Reach. But yes, any weapon wielded in this way has a 10-foot reach and just deals 1 damage die lower. So you're basically taking a -2 to max damage for reach, which in my opinion is incredibly worth it. A Great Axe just becomes a 10-foot slashing weapon with reach. That's awesome. Harmlessly Cute is awesome and just makes sense. You gain the Shameless Request skill feat, and you get a flat +1 circumstance bonus to initiative checks when rolling Deception for initiative. Because, you just look like a cute little flower, and people don't think you can murder them. But you can. Leshy Lore, there's always one. You become trained in Nature and Stealth, and you also become trained in Leshy Lore. Next up, Leshy Superstition is just solid. If you are targeted by a magical effect and need to roll a saving throw, you can use your reaction to grant yourself +1 to that saving throw. I think I've said before, probably 60 to 70% of all saving throws come from magic, so a feat like this is absolutely incredible. The Seedpod feat grants you the ability to fire off hard seeds that deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage. Weirdly enough, the Seedpod doesn't have a range increment. I would probably just assume it's either 30 feet or maybe less. Maybe 20 feet would be fair. And if you critically hit your target, it imposes a 10-foot movement speed penalty as the Seedpod bursts and tangles them up in vegetation. Though, even if you have specialization in unarmed strikes, it does not apply the critical specialization. Shadow of the Wild, because you're a plant and you don't really have, feet. As long as you're not in an urban area, you are always covering your tracks. Your tracks don't look like human footprints, and you just move with nature rather than on top of it. So you just are always covering your tracks in exploration mode. Undaunted, in my opinion, I won't say it's worse than the flat +1 to whatever magical saving throw, but it is more situational. Rather than using your reaction, Undaunted grants you a permanent +1 circumstance bonus against all emotion effects. Additionally, if you succeed against an emotion effect, you critically succeed instead. So like I said, probably not as overall useful as the flat +1 to saving throws against magical effects, but it's a little more specific, but it's a bigger reward. Leshy Glide is really cool and could allow for some really interesting combo moves with your allies. If you have someone who can throw you up into the air, you can spend 1 action on your turn to glide slowly. You spend 1 action and your fall speed becomes 5 feet per round, incredibly slowly, and you can move up to 25 feet forward. This doesn't require concentration, this doesn't break anything, and as long as you have not hit the ground, you are floating until the start of your next turn, at which case you can use Leshy Glide again and only move another 5 feet down. So the way you would do this, I think, is ready an action to use Leshy Glide when your ally throws you in the air, and then they throw you, and you stick your leaves out and you start flapping, and then you're suddenly 20 feet in the air. If you're a wizard or a sorcerer Leshy, you can just start firing off spells from above while floating. That would be cool. Ritual Reversion is a 2-action version of the Tree Shape spell that you can use as often and as many times as you like. However, you don't get to choose what you turn into. You turn into whatever form you were before you became a Leshy. So if you are a Fungus Leshy, you turn into a patch of mushrooms. If you are a Vine Leshy, you become a pile of loose vines. It's just really great for being inconspicuous, hiding, and a Leshy rogue could abuse this to no end. Speak with Kindred. You can talk to plants, but only plants that are close to your type. For example, fungus leshies can talk to fungus and mushrooms, and gourd leshies can talk to squash and pumpkins. You can ask them questions, you can have conversations, you can just talk to plants permanently. That's really cool. Also, before we move on, I just want to say how much I love this gourd Leshi. He's adorable, he's really cool, I love all the markings on his head, and the way he looks at you is just kind of cute in a really unnerving way. I think I can trust him. I mean, look, he's got flowers all over him. Isn't that nice? Bark and Tendril. Once per day, you can cast Bark Skin and Entangle once each at 2nd level. They're 2nd level spells you get at level 9. They're not great, but hey, they're free since they're from your ancestry, so you can't really complain. Lucky Keepsake sort of just hammers the nail in the coffin that Leshy Superstition is better than the one that's a resistance to emotion effects, because now your +1 circumstance bonus to magical saving throws is always in effect. Now, this is an item you need to keep on you, and if at any point you lose your little keepsake, you do lose this bonus until you either get it back or make a new one, which takes a full week. But hey, a permanent +1 bonus against magical saving throws forever is so good. And finally, yes, the last Leshy feat, Solar Rejuvenation, and it's kinda busted. By spending 10 minutes in a healthy environment for your plant type. You know, if you're a leaf leshy, you're out in the sun. If you're a fungus leshy, you're underground in a moist cave. You can spend 10 minutes resting to regain Constitution modifier times half your level. This has no cooldown. This has no restriction on how often you can do it. Meaning, if you rest for 1 hour and somebody treats your wounds, you get the heal from treat wounds, and you heal con times half your level 6 times. So if you're level 9, you're healing for Constitution times 4, which will say your Constitution's a +3, then that's what? That's 72 hit points and what you get from treat wounds in an hour. Leshies can basically just restore themselves to full health whenever they want, so long as they've got the time. This is so powerful. And believe it or not, that's Leshies. There's not a whole lot to them. They're fun, they're flavorful. You don't play a Leshy for the crazy powerful feats or the insane meta-breaking combos. You play them because you want to play a plant person. They're fun, they're unique, they're super original, and I do enjoy them. I'm not crazy head over heels for them, but you could make some funky builds using a Leshy, especially when it comes to roleplay. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons right over there. You guys are amazing. Thank you for supporting me and letting me do this. I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor. Once again, the flower. Guys, they're plant people. What do you want me to do? Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.